So we've talked about how challenging design is and the balancing of aesthetics and that. How did functionalism help you with that challenge?
Well, I want to I'm inclined to go to the beginning of my history with functionalism. Um, as a student, I studied in either a local junior college or my final years at Berkeley, Cal Berkeley. And throughout that entire experience, uh, all the instructors seemed to operate on the principle that you are either born with this design skill or not. You were cut out for it or you were not. And that was a very bewildering experience. It's almost a daily kind of a question. How do you know? Until maybe your senior year, where you've just been really a sizzling student with honors. How do you know if you're born with it or not? And so most of us kind of plodded along and wondered and worried, and we were never sure, and if we weren't cut out for it, then we really should quit and go into some other kind of a career. So I graduated and went out into the world, and I still had that same attitude. I would design things either for my employers or for some clients that I would have, and I would never quite know what I was doing. I didn't know. I couldn't tell very much good from bad, and beyond that, I didn't know how to get there anyway. It was almost like you tinkered around with alternatives until ideally a great solution popped into view, which is asking an awful lot to circumstance. And so again, I spent years in the real world not knowing how to tell whether I was on the right track, what I was doing, what good architecture was, what to look for, and the one word aesthetics seemed to be the only thing that we could talk about, and that had its own vagary, that vagueness that was so elusive you couldn't define it very well. You kind of wondered what it was. You knew that it was not only an issue, that it was probably the issue that made architects meaningful. I mean, why hire an architect generally unless you want aesthetics, and that was a very, very ill-defined, poorly defined term. So 15 years later or so, I found myself again at a college campus. Now I was teaching. I still didn't have an answer to this, and my students were starting to ask me about this, and the tradition that I studied under was still prevalent that many years later on the campus by the instructors, that it was architectural design was an intuitive thing. You either had it or you didn't. There was no kind of way to talk about it. There was no way to explain it or describe it. And this just bothered me a lot. I did not, this just didn't seem right. And so part of my frustrations every summer that I had off, I would go to the architecture library and check out as many books as they would let me check out, sometimes 25 at a time. And I would go to my summer retreat or summer experience, whatever that was, and I'd read these books. So at some point along the way, I stumbled upon a book that was about functionalism. And I'm getting chills right now. It was so exciting to find a reasoning, rationality to this question. And it kind of began, the books talked about the history of functionalism. Was actually a movement back in the mid 1800s. And it wasn't just architecture. It was a lot of different disciplines were latching onto the word and the concept, and incorporating it into their profession, their expertise, and finding a lot of value in doing that. Psychologists, the profession of psychology certainly found it meaningful because it fostered a lot more freedom on the part of individuals, and a healthier way to be on the world of thinking, where almost like you're not under so many constraints. You do what's functional, and you don't have anything that's in your way. Sociologists also enjoyed it from the standpoint of society, where they saw a healthier society when it was comprised of a more democratically structured group of individuals who were all thinking freely and constructively, rather than thinking out of dogma or tradition and whatnot. And so I just jumped onto this. I got so excited, and I started trying to teach it in my classes early on, and I made some real headway. And then, of course, I decided to quit teaching for some very profound reasons that I might explain later. But that kind of put a stop on that from the standpoint of teaching it. But it didn't stop me from learning it and practicing it. And from then on, everything I did was, in the way of building design, was trying to follow this expanding awareness inside my head about the principles of functionalism. And, to coin a phrase, I've never looked back.